it means something, means more to you than just going to Argos and buying something off the shelf. Every little thing, and it's got memories behind it of when we were here doing it. And I honestly could move in tomorrow. I could live in here.
I'm Jane, and this is my husband Paul, and we have created this little cabin in the woods called the Halvana Forest Shed.
To start the story, we're not from Cornwall. I used to work in London. I was away working quite a lot, and we eventually said there's got to be more to life than this.
Yeah, you don't live to work.
So I quit my job in London, and we moved down here, and I became a postman. 3 times, I think we put in offers 3 times, and we kept on getting outbid and gazumped at right.
Or
the
we
last
wouldn't
minute.
have sold ours, you know how it goes.
And then eventually the owners turned around and said, look, we've just been let down again by one of these people that offered loads and loads of money, and I know you've been after it on 3 separate occasions now, and you seem sincere. It's yours if you want it. And we said, yep, we absolutely do want it. And this was still a tractor shed then, and they said, come and start bringing your stuff now.
Yeah,
if you
because
want.
we came from this great big
We came
Victorian
from a
house. There's
massive
no
house.
way it was going to fit in there.
So this place was filled with all our stuff for probably 3 months before we even moved. So they used it just for storage as well. So the people that we bought from, it was an old Forestry commissioned tractor shed. So in the corner where we've got the bathroom now was their lavatory and wash basin stuff. And then they had a little kitchen area here, and the rest of it was for all their equipment. We kind of left it like that, didn't we? We loaded it up with so much stuff, because the house that we were coming from was a huge, great big 5 or 6 bedrooms Victorian place to a little two up, 2 down
Little
cottage.
woodcutter's cottage, yeah.
Because the roof started to give way.
Something had to be done.
It had not corrugated metal, but like asbestos-y type corrugated sheets, and they all started to leak, and I had about 15 buckets in here trying to catch all the leaks. I'd have to come down daily to empty each one out. So that's when we said, well, look, we've got to replace the roof.
And it looked an eyesore at that point, because there was a tarpaulin over it, and every time a dog walker came past, I thought, oh, please don't look at our shed, it's a right mess, I know.
And that's when we decided that, look, I said to you, should we do something with it? And you said, why don't we do a holiday let? And it seemed the perfect location for a cabin.
And friends and family kept saying, you're missing a trick there, you two, come on. Who'd want to stay in our old tractor shed, that old tumbled down old thing?
I think we'd been here 15 years by then, or 17 years by then, and we'd never done anything with it.
And then I'd start browsing on Pinterest and creating a board.
And I had no idea what could be done with, because we had panelling that was falling off outside, the roof had all collapsed in. The cost, how much was this going to cost?
You were working full time as a postman at that point. We are foster carers, so life was very full.
So he came along and he looked at it, and I guess any builder would turn around and say, yes, of course you can do. Yeah, you can do it. But there's a cost involved, and then we needed to know what that cost was, because we didn't have a bucket load of money to be able to spare on it. We only wanted to spend up to £20,000. So I said, look, what could be done? Could we reuse the framework that was already here? And he looked at it and he said, yeah, okay, I'll get back to you on a price. And he gave us a price, and he said, yep, I'll do it for your 20 grand budget that you've got. But again, it was very a bit of a clash of ideas, really, because we always had it in our head that we wanted it to look old. We didn't want it to stand out like a sore thumb in the forest type environment. So he wanted to put a plastic or resin roof or something like that on there, fiberglass roof. And I was saying, no, we really want wiggly tin, old tin. He said, but it rusts. I said, we want it to rust.
I like that. Great.
We want it to look rusty. And
I think really, he was a chap who would build garden offices, or people for nail salons in their back garden, places for their beauticians to work, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted it to look rustic.
Yeah.
Oh, second hand. Well, not just to keep the cost down, but that was the look we liked. We want the rust.
I guess he had a build time frame, so he knew how quickly he could knock up these offices. So he actually did turn around and say, well, look, you've got all these ideas of all these things you want. He said, you go out and source the stuff, and I'll fit it.
We hired vans, we hired trailers, and we were those people that if you went anywhere, I'd be looking in a skip.
Yeah.
Just because that was the sort of stuff we wanted. Yeah. Someone else's junk. Because I knew it had potential.
That's what,
It's
clear to see, isn't it?
I didn't want this place to be filled of stuff from IKEA. Yeah, it had to be unique, individually sourced, I didn't want anything arriving wrapped in bubble wrap. It had to have a story behind it of where we'd got that from.
I guess he knew how quickly he would be able to knock out plasterboard and pine cladding with his nail gun, and then it got to the point he said, "Well, look, I never envisaged being here this long. I think I've done my 20 grand's worth."
Because I'd come in with my phone and my Pinterest board, and I'd say, "Can you do that for me? Could you make me that? Could you make my kitchen like that? Could we just get some old scaffold boards, please? Can we do it like that?"
So in the end, we had to part company, and I think we both agreed that what we wanted was going to take longer than what he thought, because he'd never done it before, and we ended up having to finish off.
Well, and actually the whole family, even my 80-year-old mother, helped me sand every single pallet in here.
Yeah, Liz. I mean, that was quite stressful, because obviously I was still working. We were still fostering, but we weren't under any time constraints, were we? Really?
No.
So it didn't really matter how long it took, really. So I'd do a bit.
But
I'd do a bit a day.
I think it was probably. Would it be a year? Do you think it took a year?
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard. Every weekend, every day off you had, we were back down in the shed again. And I didn't want a electric shower from Wicks. I wanted you to make me something out of pipes.
Yeah. And the head is from a watering can
rose. I don't know what you call those things.
Well, they're industrial
Yeah.
on-offs for pipes, aren't they? Yeah. I love it. I love it too.
But even now, when we think it's done and we're still out and about and think, oh, that'd be great in the shed. Let's just get those old skis. They'd look great on the shed. Let's get this old saw. That would be a great. So we just still keep spending, because we see little bits of memorabilia and little curiosities and things. And let's have that.
Yeah, I mean, lots of it is stuff that we had lying around. So the butler sink used to have flowers in it.
Yes.
The taps we bought years ago, intending to put them on a bath of our own, and the scaffold boards.
I am so lucky to have you, though, because you are great at that sort of thing, and you've got the vision too. So I've got the pretty pictures and the my Pinterest board and my Instagram, and then Paul's really practical and is able to do it. So you are really handy, self-taught but handy, and you do it properly. And because it's you that's going to be doing the ongoing maintenance of things, you have the foresight to think, right, well, I need to make an access hole there because one day this might happen. Whereas I think perhaps a builder just wants to just whack it up and it's done, but you think ahead, and I might need to get to those pipes one day.
I think practically it was probably better for us to finish it ourselves and put our stamp on it. How we wanted it. I mean that was one of the expenses that we had to decide on, wasn't it? 'Cause it wasn't cheap, that stuff.
Yeah. Do I want to spend all that money on pipe?
But then it was a case of either the stuff gets hidden behind a wall, which then if you ever got to get to it, you've got to rip the wall out, or the builder wanted to put in plastic trunking, and it just wasn't what we ever wanted. No. So we did bite the bullet and spend the extra money then on, and we had an electrician in to come and do all the electrics, because obviously we've got guests coming in here, so we have to have it all done properly with certificates and so forth. So we had an electrician come in and put all the trunking stuff in. We ordered it all, didn't we? He told us what to get, and we ordered it all.
Yeah. So what is that? Is that called galvanised?
Yeah, galvanised metal trunking.
And then in the kitchen area, I think, and in the bathroom, those are actual copper pipes.
The copper pipes.
Because again, you didn't want them hidden because you may need access to them.
That was actually quite an enjoyable thing to do as well, to fit them like that, to buy because you don't see it anymore, but to buy the little brackets that the pipe screws into and then fixes to the wall. It all just felt quite nice and tactile to have all that on show, and it looks beautiful, I think.
And your idea in the bathroom as well, the rather than just any old sink, you sourced an old river boulder.
An old river boulder that's been hollowed out. Yeah.
So that's the bathroom sink.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a big wash in it.
See, that's me. That's my tick.
Well, we were very lucky in the fact that there was already sewage here, because the Forestry Commission put in its own cesspit. And there was already a water supply. Our spring is just quite close to that stream. The electric, there was electric here. Yeah, so we did actually have Western Power quote us to connect it to the we've got a transformer at the end of our drive to connect it to our supply, and they wanted something ridiculous like £14,000 to come and connect up this shed. So I bought all the wire, the armour cord wire, and I ran it from here underground to our house, and we had an electrician come and connect it to our house. So the electricity supply is supplied from our house, but because of that, we've had to limit how much electric is down here. So then we decided, right, okay, we're not going to have electric showers and stuff, so we had to then get an LPG instant hot water boiler that can do the hot water for the shower and the sinks, and then a gas cooker, LPG cooker.
So we've got an old-fashioned eye-level grill.
Yeah.
But I like that, like Granny had.
That took a long time to source, actually, to get that cooker with the old-fashioned gas grill on the top. But it all seems to work. It seems to work perfectly. So heating-wise, we have got some underfloor heating, but it's very low wattage just to keep it at a constant temperature. Otherwise, it's that. Which we had handmade for us as well. We found a guy down in Totnes who
Bone
makes
mill stoves,
who makes these stoves, and we didn't want to buy just an off the peg. There you go, it's made in France. So we went to a chap in Totnes, and he hand built us, and he's even put the build date on it. The build date into
all
the
those
top
little
right corner.
details that make this place so unique. And in fact, didn't we go to pick it up, and he wanted to do his final coat of something, and we said, no, we want it left as it is, please. Just leave it like that.
Yeah.
We don't want it coloured or shiny. Or we then had to put that piece of, see, you again, Mr. Practical, said, well, how do we stop the cabin burning down? We'd have to have something behind the
So so I did go to a stove shop, and I said, have you got any fiberboard? And he said, well, what are you doing with it? And I explained it's going into a log cabin, and we've got this big pipe running up along by this wooden wall. And he said, the fiberboard's really, really expensive. And I said, go on and tell me how much. And it was something like £50 for a 1 metre sheet, something like that. And he said, do you want my advice? He said, it's the gap more than anything that you want. He said, put up a piece of tin, but put some copper pipe behind the screws to bring it away from the wall. And he said, and that will act as your insulator. He said, it'll be fine, absolutely fine. So it was his advice, and it seems to work really, really well.
Under the stairs is a little mouse house, and if you have a little peep in there, is little Maisy's asleep in a bed in there.
Really?
Yeah.
So we said we didn't want plasterboard
And paint.
paint.
No, we needed something rustic.
And and then he suggested, why don't we have the really yellowy pine that you'd get in saunas.
And I didn't want it to look like a sauna.
So he said, well, look, if you can source some wood, he said, I'm happy to put it up. And we said, well, what about pallets? So it was a joint effort. So he paid somebody, a young lad in Bude, to break some pallets for him. And we had loads here that I would be breaking.
And we couldn't drive anywhere without looking. There's one!
Yeah.
There's one!
Well, we had the whole family, because your mum and her partner, they were bringing loads around as well. So that was all broken up. Actually, not with the gadgets that you can buy now, but with just a normal crowbar and a sledgehammer. Well, you can probably see some have just been angle grinded off and left the head of the nail in.
And then it was my job, with help of my mum,
To sand it all.
With a sander
again,
each.
not perfectly smooth.
No,
we wanted
no.
We wanted to keep that colour to it as well.
And that was the other thing, talking about the colour, I didn't want varnish. I didn't want that yellow, shiny varnish, but you felt it had to have something on it.
To keep the dust down, yeah. I can't remember.
It was Danish oil, wasn't it? We used in the
Danish oil
end.
over everything, yeah.
And we got through bottles and bottles of that.
Even now, because we've still got some pallets left over, I look at it and I think, oh yeah, I could use that. I really want to try and break it up again. I remember banging and banging and
But I love it because it's like a patchwork.
I mean,
it's all mismatched. When you then put the Danish oil on, each piece of pallet wood sucks it up and it ends up in a different colour. So there'll be some with a slight grey tinge and some with a slightly yellowy tinge or a brown tinge. But I like that. Yeah. The windows are large too, because just there would have been the 2 huge doors to the shed for the machinery to come in and out. So we wanted that to be a huge window, because actually on a nice fine day you're sort of pointed towards Bude over there, and you can see across the fields, and there's cows in the fields. So we wanted that to be quite a big feature window. But then this one, we wanted it to be narrower, so it framed the view out into the field to see the pony and then the forest beyond, so that when you're stood at the sink it's just the right height. And they were just they're second hand. We probably paid £100 for them. A warehouse in Bude just advertised them on Facebook Marketplace, and we hired a van because they were so huge, and just bought, they're second hand windows, reuse, recycle. We had to get the windows first so that we knew how big to make the openings. We live in the middle of nowhere. All we have out there is cows and ponies and forest. But you will get the occasional dog walker go by. So I guess you do need something for privacy. So the windows were a really unusual size, and they were really tricky to get any sort of blinds or curtains for. So coffee sacks. And yeah, partly maybe the money was running out, I don't know. But actually no, again, it's my personality coming out. I've used coffee sacks to cover sofas before. So again, they're local, they're recycled, reused. And it's just different, and I like that. I like to be individual and put my mark on things. So they are coffee sacks. I tried threading them with twine and making them into blinds that you pull, but that didn't work. So then I just tied with twine little curtain rings on the top and put them along a piece of metal that Paul put up for me. And then scaffold boards. I didn't want a fitted kitchen. That is so not me. So it's just scaffold boards.
And the scaffold board stairs.
Yeah.
And all of the wiggly wood was from a tree that fell down, an old maple tree that fell down in our back garden from one of the storms. Oh. Well, we had to have a water tank.
So now it's Mr. Practical, you see.
So the water tank is stored up there, and it was just a case of, well, is that going to be wasted space just for a water tank, or do we just bring it out slightly further and create a little space that you can actually get?
It's up in the trees, it's cosy, it's a low height, it's a place for loafing around with cushions. Yeah.
And I often say, and I still say it now, even 2 years down the line, I can remember doing that. I can remember putting that in. I can remember shaping that piece of wood. I can remember cutting that little joint there. But it's not just that. It means something. It means more to you than just going to Argos and buying something off the shelf. Every little thing, and it's got memories behind it of when we were here doing it. And I honestly could move in tomorrow. I could live in here. Jane wanted to see me retire from Royal Mail. I've retired in August.
He retired this in August.
In August.
Amazing.
Yeah, we did truly not expect it to turn out as well as it did. No. I think I always knew, because I looked at pretty pictures, so I kind of always knew I love styling. I knew that it would look nice. But would it ever be good enough to use as a holiday home? I lacked confidence. But no way did I expect it to be as popular as it is. I think our occupancy rate averages at least 75%, even out of season. This place is so suited to winter stays.
We're lucky with the location.
Yeah.
But we've as a family, we've always loved this location. You can literally walk through the forest. We've got a track that goes from the back of our house through the forest and straight up onto the moor. And you can not see a person all day. You can walk all day and not see a soul.
It's meant that Paul can get home now, which is so nice. So. And he's 55 and he's retired.
Amazing. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a real success story.
Yeah. Don't dream about it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, I love that.
Because unless you give it a go, you'll never know, and you'll look back in years to come and think, I wonder what would have happened if I'd have done it.
There'll be really tough moments.
Yeah, and don't be frightened of the cost, because if you put your mind to it, you can do it cheap. You can do it cheap, and people seem to love it.
And I think
we love it.
But almost you need to kind of look ahead beyond the stage that you're at now. So it might be that this week we're on bathroom, but actually no, I'm already thinking of kitchen, because if I drive past something, that'd be great in the kitchen. So you've got to just start sourcing things and just stashing them away somewhere, because one day that will come in handy, and then that helps with the cost too.
Our mortgage was coming to an end, and we had to renew our mortgage. And I seem to remember,
I thought we put on another 20.
We put on another 20.
And said that we'd use it for this.
But I think it cost us 18 in the end. That includes everything, you know, the cooker, the boiler, the
Yeah, they were brand new, and they did arrive in bubble wrap,
the
sadly.
professionals that we had to have in to do those services, so we've got a certificate.
Yeah, you can't skimp on those things. You need an actual qualified electrician and a gas man. Don't bodge that.
Yeah, so £18,000. So we had a couple of grand left over for
Titivating.
knickknacks and
Embellishments.
and stuff like that. And don't think you can't do anything. You'll be amazed at what you can do, even if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
It's sourcing things. So save your money for the important things like the electrics, the things you have to get right. But it's just sourcing things. Having an eye for things. Being on Facebook Marketplace. Going to car boot sales and rummaging for bits of old something that would be handy, could be used for something else.
Why do you think people are craving this? Why do you think people...
Escapism.
From the humdrum of life. And I totally get it as well. You know, things are hard at the minute, and you need that bit of escapism. I think we all do.
Simple things that we've all forgotten: lighting a fire, listening to vinyl music.
I find that when people go to a hotel, they use it as a base to go and explore the city or wherever they've gone to stay. But most of our guests, they pull up and they stay. They don't leave. They don't leave. They just stay and they unwind. There's a little book.
There's a little book, and I always ask them to just write a message in the book. And we've had proposals in here. Oh, it's just so lovely.
And so many people who actually do say it's just where my dream home is, where I'd love to live myself.
Yeah.